Now we head to Chicago. It's not that close to Canada, but close enough. Jack Nicas. Hey, Jack.
Hey, how are you, Dennis?
We've been teasing now for 20 minutes your story. So let's get past the tease and to the meat. You've spent time on the border between Canada and America, and you found Canadians are flocking to U.S. airports. Why?
Yeah, so, it's always been pretty expensive to travel from Canada to the U.S. The tax structure on flying is a lot higher there in Canada. So as the Canadian dollar, its buying power has strengthened in the U.S., these U.S. airlines have realized that they have this whole new customer base to the north just across the border, and they've flocked to these small little outposts, airports like Plattsburgh, New York, Niagara Falls, New York, Bellingham, Washington, Burlington, Vermont, and they're sort of luring these Canadians across the border to fly from them.
So Jack, tell us, how big of a change is this?
Well, for these small airports, it's a very big deal. The traffic has tripled since 2007 for the three airports where Canadians make up 60% or more of the travelers. And for the airlines, it's a big deal. An ultra-low-cost carrier, Allegiant, has made it sort of a cornerstone of its strategy. They've set up shop at a dozen airports along the U.S. border. And Canada now is really trying to plug the leak. It's a big deal. The Canadian Senate came out with a big report on Tuesday urging the government to lower its taxes on flying. And the Canadian Airports and Airlines did a study recently that found 4.8 million Canadians departed or arrived from airports along the U.S. border last year.
And Jack, can you tell us, break down what these taxes and differential in price is for a Canadian flyer, say flying from Niagara Falls on the Canada side to Chicago versus one on the U.S. side?
Right. The taxes and fees alone on the flight can be 4 times as high, and that can be $200 for a round trip, and that's just tacked on top of the fares. Now, the fare structure, fares generally are higher in Canada because there's much less competition among airlines. So, I've spoken to several Canadians, especially in Burlington, who said, we saved essentially, we paid half what we would have flying from Montreal, and it was just an hour or two drive across the border.
Jack,
so,
sorry, go on.
It just makes a lot of sense for these Canadians, and what they've also said is, all I need is my passport to cross the border. When I get to these airports in the U.S. coming from Canada, it's a whole process through customs, and parking is free at these U.S. border airports, so it makes a lot of sense for the Canucks.